All right, today we are diving into two incredible systems. One is completely engineered by us, the other is totally natural. But you know what? Both of them are absolutely essential to how our world actually works. I mean, think about it for a second. It seems like a simple question, right? But the answers take us on this amazing journey into physics and biology. We're going to explore that invisible flow of electrons running our tech, and then the silent, powerful process that literally fuels our entire planet. So here's our game plan. We'll start with electricity, current, circuits, the whole deal. Then we're going to flip over to nature's ultimate power plant, photosynthesis. We'll look at how plants live, and then, at the end, we'll tie these two incredible energy systems together. Okay, let's kick things off with that invisible force we've managed to harness to build, well, pretty much everything in our modern lives, electricity. At its heart, electricity is actually surprisingly simple. It's just the movement of these teeny tiny charged particles. So when we talk about electric current, we're really just talking about a river of electrons flowing along. And we measure how big that river is in amperes, or amps for short. But here's the thing. This flow of charge isn't just a chaotic mess. Nope. It follows some very specific rules, kind of like the rules of the road. And it all depends on the path, or the circuit, that we build for it. And that brings us to the two main types of electrical highways. A series circuit, think of that as a single-lane country road. The traffic, or current, is the same everywhere. But if there's a breakdown, say a light bulb burns out, the whole road shuts down. A parallel circuit, on the other hand, is like a city grid. The current splits up and takes different routes. So if one bulb goes out on one street, all the others stay on. Way more reliable, right? So what gives these electrons the oomph to get going in the first place? Well, that's where potential difference, or what we usually call voltage, comes in. You can just think of it as the electrical push. It's the energy from a battery or an outlet that gets the electrons moving. And we measure that push in volts. Okay, so if voltage is the push, what's pushing back? Because it's not always a smooth ride for these electrons. Every circuit has obstacles. And the big one is this idea of resistance. Resistance is, well, exactly what it sounds like. It measures how much something fights against that flow of current. It's like an obstacle course for electrons. The higher the resistance, the tougher it is for that current to push through. We measure this opposition in a unit called ohms. Now, this whole idea of resistance is why some materials are perfect for making wires and others are perfect for, well, not. Materials basically fall into two camps. You've got conductors like copper with super low resistance. Their electrons can move around freely, which is great for current. And then you have insulators like plastic with crazy high resistance. Their electrons are locked down tight, which stops the current and, keeps us from getting shocked. Now, for a concept that is a little bit mind-bending, how can two charged things attract or repel each other without ever touching? They do it through something called an electric field. It's this invisible region of influence, like a force field, that surrounds a charged object. If another charge enters this field, it feels a push or a pull. It's basically how forces can act across totally empty space. Kind of cool, huh? Okay, time to switch gears completely. We're moving from the world we engineered to the world that engineered us. We're going from the flow of electrons to the planet's original and honestly most important power source, the humble plant. The process that powers pretty much all life on this planet is called photosynthesis. It's this remarkable bit of chemical magic that lets plants take simple stuff from the environment and turn it into food, into the energy that fuels entire ecosystems. And you can actually think of this whole complex process like a simple recipe. So first, a plant grabs some carbon dioxide from the air. Then it pulls up water from the soil. You apply a little sunlight for energy, and voila! The result is glucose, a sugar that's basically plant food. And as a little bonus for us, oxygen. And seriously, I cannot stress this enough. This one process is the bedrock of nearly all life on Earth. Plants are what we call primary producers. Without them turning sunlight into chemical energy, almost every food chain on the planet would just collapse. It would be catastrophic. And get this. It's not just the big trees and plants on land doing all the work. A massive chunk of the oxygen we breathe, somewhere between 50 and 80% of it, is produced by tiny microscopic plants in the ocean called phytoplankton. It just goes to show you this life-giving process is happening everywhere. So you have to wonder, how are plants so perfectly designed by nature to be these little solar-powered factories? Well, the secret is all in their incredible design. I mean, a leaf is just a masterpiece of engineering. It's got a huge surface area to soak up as much sun as possible. It's really thin so gases can move in and out fast. The veins are a perfect transport system for water and food. It even has these tiny pores called stomata to breathe in carbon dioxide. And the chloroplasts, the little green engines doing all the work, are packed right up top to get the most light. It's brilliant! But, making energy is only half the battle. Plants also have to make more plants. And that whole process kicks off with pollination, that vital first step of getting pollen from the male part of a flower to the female part, which gets the ball rolling for fertilization. So why should we care about plant reproduction? Well, because our food supply completely depends on it. A huge percentage of the food we eat, from apples and almonds to coffee and chocolate, relies on insects like bees to do the heavy lifting of pollination. Without them, our grocery stores would look very, very different. So this isn't just some neat biology factoid. It's a critical issue of our own security. The health of these tiny pollinators is directly, fundamentally linked to our ability to feed ourselves. It is a super delicate but absolutely crucial connection. So let's bring it all back together. We've got this engineered flow of electricity and this natural capture of sunlight. They seem like totally different worlds, but at the end of the day, they're both about capturing and moving energy. So when you step back and look at it, we've covered the man-made flow of electrons that powers our digital civilization, and the incredible natural process that powers the entire living world. One is a testament to human ingenuity, the other is the product of billions of years of evolution. And we need both of them for life as we know it. And that leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. We've become absolute masters at controlling the electron to build our world. But can we make sure we're also safeguarding the biological cell that has powered this planet all along? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.